So I've known you for years. I think 20, 30 years. Huh?
I mean, we don't just.
And I mean, we're gonna age ourselves now. Like, is that the game? Is that the game we're playing? 20, 30 years.
I mean, when you were a baby, right?
Yeah. You did not know me in high school, so like, I'm not sure what you're trying to do, but I mean, I think with the election, Keith, I think we're seeing just a. I think we're seeing a rejection of a lot of business as usual. Before every single State of the Union address during the Biden era, I would tell the White House, you have got to explain to people what is standing in the way of change. Who is standing in the way of change? Tell them about the corporations that are preventing this legislation from moving, and making things unaffordable. Tell them the story of police unions that are preventing us from being able to get police accountability. And they would always say, that's not Biden's way, right? And what is that? They would literally say that to me, that he's not going to name the corporations and he's not going to name the villain in that way. And
that's such a mistake.
Such a mistake.
I remember going back. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
I remember going back to Franklin Roosevelt. It was, even though I didn't agree with him on a lot of stuff, but one of the things he used to say is that all the forces of evil are united against him, and I, welcome their hatred.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
And I love the idea. He was willing to take on those big corporations, the forces who were against him, and to name them. That's what Democrats have done since the Great Depression, the New Deal. Why are we not doing it now in 2026 when there's so many different evil forces out there?
I think that they're worried about not getting the 1/3 of money that's out there, whereas the Republicans get the 2/3. It is outrageous, but it also speaks to a challenge that people then have can't trust us.
Yeah.
Can't trust the Democrats, right? If you can't tell a full story about what you're fighting for and who you have to take out to get there. Right? It's just not believable. It's not believable in a world that we know folks are standing on the other side. It's why I talk about profiteering in my book. It's why I spend so much time taking on corporations, because what we know is on the other side of so many good things that we want is entrenched power, willing to do anything and everything to block it. And if we can't name that, and I think what this election shows is that candidates that were willing to name it, candidates that were willing to talk about the things that were standing in the way and tell a hero-villain story are candidates that emerge. And I think that is incredibly important, because if we don't tell a story, our opponents fill it in. They fill it in with Black people. They fill it in with immigrants. They fill it in with trans kids. They fill it in with women's equality and so much more. That full story is so incredibly important. And I hope that more people can authentically do that on our side. And if they can't, then they should be replaced.
You talk about that in your book.
I do.
Presence to power. People understandably feel hopeless, and it feels like every institution that we've relied on to save us has been co-opted right now. How do we stay positive and imagine a way forward?
I think about this a lot. No movement for change has existed without a culture of belief. People believing that change is possible, but that's something that they can't see and touch is possible. And so we do have to stay hopeful. And the best way that I stay hopeful is staying in the game, staying focused on what I can do each and every day, finding the ways that I can find my own power, being in conversation with people who are actually doing things. That's how I stay hopeful, by actually doing something.
You obviously have written your new book from the perspective of a planner. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, From Presence to Power is a 21st century framework for how we win. For anyone who's tired of losing and wants to win more things. It's the book I wish I had when I first started doing this work. And at the end of many of the chapters, there's actually exercises for you to take out a piece of paper and for you to map sort of how to think about social change, how to think about your networks. But at the end of the day, it is a book for, in the era of consolidated corporate power, of big tech, of what we're seeing with the authoritarian regime. It is the book for all of us that we need in this moment, I think, to win more things.
So I've known you for years. I think 20, 30 years. Huh?
We don't just.
I
I mean, we're gonna age ourselves now. Like, is that the game? Is that the game we're playing? 20, 30 years.
I mean, when you were a baby, right?
Yeah. You did not know me in high school, so like, I'm not sure what you're trying to do, but like.
No, I've known you for years, but I guess the reason why I'm saying this is because I feel like you're one of the great strategists in our community, in our country, and I read parts of the book and I saw that you spend a lot of time talking about rule making and rule breaking,
Yes,
just rule changing. Why are you focused on this issue of rules?
I think rules are so incredibly important. They set a standard for both what we've won and what we can enforce. And when you get a rule change, you can also force role changes. You can force, a prosecutor to do their job differently. And then as a result, you get a whole new set of rules. When the right wing gets judges to see their jobs differently, they get a whole new set of things. Sometimes when they get teachers to show up differently, they get a whole new set of things. And so I am very much focused on rules because I believe that that's connected to power. Power is the ability to change the rules. And the title of the book is From Presence to Power is because far too often I think we mistake presence for power, visibility, awareness, retweets, shout outs from the stage, the things in this attention economy that can make us feel good, but actually don't make things better. So 5, 10, 15 years from now, I want there to be new rules. New things that we can enforce and hold institutions accountable for, because that's the cascading thing that actually makes people's lives better. Just a second.
I feel like you're much cooler than I because you have your sunglasses on.
Should I take off my sunglasses?
No, I think it's great that you have sunglasses on. So I feel like I want to have my sunglasses on.
Okay. Your sunglasses better.
Yeah.
And also because the sun, you're like.
I'm actually
yeah. It actually makes sense to do that. So members of Congress are being arrested right now for just doing their job.
Yes.
You have all kinds of violations of the norms that are taking place with from the president on down. What do we do to respond to that, to fight back?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot about the sort of profiteering infrastructure, who needs to be held accountable, not just Trump, but all of those that are enabling him, all of those that are making money on him, all those that are making money off of him. I think, we have been, in this era of yelling about Trump, of almost being outraged by each new thing that he does, when at this point, this is all he's going to do. But there are those that get to play hear no evil, speak no evil, see no evil, why they are either profiting through money or whether through hierarchy. They are maintaining their positions of power, maintaining their seats and benefiting from that. And so that in some ways is where we need to focus. We can't pretend like any of this is normal any given day of the week, but we also can't pretend, like this happened overnight, And I think what's important to understand the struggle of Black people, to understand the struggle that Black people have had in this democracy, is to know that people were being arrested for no reason whatsoever.
Right.
That the news, and sometimes on the left, it's being reported differently because white people are now experiencing this, and non-Black people are not experiencing this. But I've watched, even during my time at Color of Change, I watched as, maybe a mayor would get elected in a southern city and then get locked out of his office and not be able to take his seat. We heard the stories, even in this era, of cities not opening up certain public accommodations to everyone because they didn't want Black people to participate and enjoy them. So part of all of this, and this is why I go back to power, it is so key in being able to force leaders and force institutions to do things that they don't want to do. Right. And I know sometimes we could focus on hearts and minds, but hearts and minds change when you have real power. Right. We cannot rely on the same systems to protect us. Not only are the courts not going to save us, but they're coming after us. The consecutive stacking one after the next thing is the game that they are playing, and they want to keep us distracted. And so in so many ways, we understand this. We understand this about Trump because of what he did to the Central Park Five, or what he wanted to do to the Central Park Five. And so we recognize that we have to do new work. We can't expect the courts to show up for us. We can't expect the politicians to lead us. In these ways, we have to build power that forces those institutions to do things they don't want to do. I'm actually not a dreamer. I'm a planner. And I'm not here to, say keep your spirits up because it sounds good. I'm not here to tell folks to fight back because they need to hear another platitude. I know that we can win. It's going to be hard, but giving up is exactly what our opponents want us to do. They want us to be a permanent minority and not have any power. And in this moment, more than any other, we have to come together and use that power to fight back and push back. And right now in this moment, we've got to raise our game, to get out of silos, to recognize what we need to be doing. And I hope this book is an equalizer for anyone that's tired of losing and wants us to win more things.
Should we copy the book with you?
Chef.
So can you tell me about the new book? And did you bring it with you?
Does
that look too fake?
No, yeah. It was also just funny because I was going back to what just happened.
Okay,
Now.
All right. So can you tell us about the new book? And did you bring it with you?
Yeah, well, I have an early edition, but the book doesn't come out till July 28th.
Wow. Look at that.
But yeah, From Presence to Power, How to Take on the Fights That Matter and Win. I put my 2 decades of movement building work into this book, wins and losses, but also really practical information about how do you translate analysis about all the problems that exist in our world into action. So there's exercises at the end of some of the chapters. There's stories about wins and losses and what we should have done, but it's also a path forward. I hope it provides hope that in this moment of authoritarian takeover, in this moment of consolidation of media and big tech, that there is something that we can do, that in the face of everything, we can win. I fundamentally believe that. And I hope this book is an offering to anyone who is tired of losing and wants to win more.
Tell me the truth. Are you hopeful?
I am hopeful. I believe in the possibility of change. I wake up every day seeing the openings, seeing the campaign opportunities. And I do know that there are more of us that want real change, but we have to be strategic about it and we have to do better than what we've been doing.
Well, how can you get other people to be hopeful, though?
Well, I think, I've always existed and, at every stage of my career, every stage of my work, I've always been working on issues that may have felt intractable at the time. And finding those wins, finding those small wins along the way, those hopeful nuggets that make people believe that, we did this together and we can do more. I also just sort of know that, there's something about the human spirit, those of us who have faced adversity, who wake up every day and still go out into the world and do everything that we can, that, we believe something that is more for ourselves. I've seen it in every kind of area of work that I've been part of. And what I try to do in this book is take that sort of culture of belief and apply some strategy to it. Right? Because if you just have a culture of belief, that can be magical thinking, right? So, it's sort of like, it's what I think about sort of around February, March, right? I may have a culture of belief about how I want to look in the summer, but if I don't actually get to work about it, it's not gonna actually land. And so we don't want to be in magical thinking that change is just going to be inevitable, that the moral arc just bends. But we do want to believe that change is possible.
Well, the book is called From Presence to Power.
From Presence to Power, How to Take on the Fights That Matter and Win. And it comes out July 28th. It comes out July 28th with Penguin Random House. And I'm going to be on book tour, and people can visit FromPresencetoPower.com to learn more about the book tour, to pre-order the book, and to engage in the community that I'm going to be building, focused on winning.
A good friend, Rashad Robinson, From Presence to Power. Check it out now.
I'm going to be out on the road with this book. I'm going to be coming to communities. I'm going to be anywhere in every community that folks want me. I mean, I'm starting off in a number of big cities like New York and Los Angeles, DC, San Francisco, Seattle, Detroit and Miami and Chicago and a bunch of other places. But I also hope that folks will, bring me to places where this work can be meaningful. I'm building out workshops and tools that Absolutely, St. Louis. I want to be all through the Midwest and the Rust Belt and all of these places where, folks have such an incredible fighting spirit. People have pushed back in deep ways, and I hope the book is an offering, an opportunity for us to come together. I hope we have community in the places that I go, and I hope that people can feel like they can do something that's real. Because in this moment, so many people are asking me what they can do. And in this book, I offer that. I offer really clear things that you can do individually and really clear things that you can do collectively.
There's a great bookstore in St. Louis called Left Bank Books. If you ever get a chance, so
Left Bank Books, shout out, have me. I'll come, I'll sign some books. Yes.
Anything else?
No. Thank you for doing this, friend.
Thank you for being a friend. As
yes,
they say in the Golden
yes,
Girls.
absolutely. I mean, we're, I don't necessarily know if we want to quite say golden. You're trying to bring me into your generation.
Oh Lord, here we go again.
You trying to bring me into your generation, but I have to say, Keith, like you have been a constant example.
It's not gonna make it on through.
Okay.
So what?
But you have it. I say it all the time.
I know, right? Something on your